My name is Jason Samuels. I'm from Clutersville and we're currently at Clutersville Primary School. My mother went to the school and they used to call it the Green School. I'm finishing off my studies that was research into how schools use electricity. And we had a focus on behavioral interventions and efficiency interventions. It's really nice to come back to school to be able to do research that changes how they manage their water, their electricity, and that creates savings for them. So specifically, it's the Internet of Things with regards to how water is managed and how energy is managed. So how that played out was that there was a smart water meter created and a smart energy meter created. And I mean, that's where it all started. So if you can measure it, then you can manage it and you can be aware of it. So the project is called the Dropula Project, and it is the Smart Water Meter Challenge, where schools would then compete basically against each other to see how much water they could save. And they used the Count Dropula. That was the name for the smart water meter, to then log what they would use and then compete against each other, and then they would get a prize. So instead of sucking blood, it just sucks away the water wastage, which is quite interesting. Going from academics into people's actual lives, that doesn't always happen. But with these projects, it actually happened, which was amazing. So yeah, I really like to do this research where it translates well into the real world. In our project, we gave schools their data back. We just visualized it in a nice, understandable way, and we also educated them on how the tariffs work. So they knew when they used what, and also how much they paid. With the water project, it went from 5 schools, and just from a professor wanting to help out one school that his daughter was at, to 350 schools across the province of the Western Cape, and them saving 500 million litres of water across the project, which is just insane. Millions of litres of water were saved, and millions of rands were saved for schools, and particularly poor schools. The reason why the electricity reduction is so important is that in South Africa, our electricity generation is predominantly from a coal source. So every kilowatt of energy used, you can track that back to some piece of coal that was burnt and some carbon emissions into the environment. So every kilowatt hour that we don't use or that we reduce is then carbon emissions that we reduce as well, which is very, very important for climate change and the bigger picture. So that's how schools can play a role with regards to South Africa contributing to the reduction of the impact of climate change. So now we got the opportunity to actually take the usage of the schools in South Africa, and we could compare it to the usage of schools across the world, which was quite fantastic to see. We still actually use not a lot of electricity, which is interesting. So then you can ask a few questions of why is that, and we also saw a disparity between the richer schools and the poorer schools. The poorer schools would use almost like half the energy usage of richer schools. So our conclusion was that there needs to be more infrastructure investment in poorer schools. They still had old light bulbs that were just drawing too much energy for the technology that we currently have. At that point, we just said, okay, let's replace these lights and see what we can do. I know it sounds very simple, but we then replaced those old fluorescent lights with the best LED light. And when you do that, you get lots of savings, which is amazing. So you don't only get the monetary savings, but you also get the actual light quality improvement for the learners, which I think is a win-win. The technology being used here is the LED technology. This light normally draws about 20 watts, which is really some huge reduction from the previous fluorescent. So how that relates to climate change is that you have less energy drawn out from these lights, and schools have hundreds and hundreds of these lights. And that's a way how South Africa, through schools, are contributing to the climate change goals. This is the first EPC for schools, and legally all schools need to get this certificate in the country. And then this is the second EPC in the country, which is amazing. So this school got the second one, the university got the first one. It's really phenomenal.